to IFAB Online.
नमस्कार, IFAB ऑनलाइन में आपका स्वागत है.
Hola, bienvenidos a IFAB Online.
Hello, welcome to the session Fundraising from Asian Organization from Latin America. So what we'll be looking at really today with our two speakers, Anup and Alex, which I will introduce in a minute, is exploring really the synergies between the two emerging markets, which are Asia and Latin America. So really looking at what are the best type of markets that you want to kind of focus on in those two regions, which are specific countries, cultural differences and specificities, also to be taken into account. So very quick introduction of me first, I guess. So I'm Laura Giles. I am a consultant. I support organizations to do various things, including fundraising, really in terms of strategy, in terms of really strengthening, in particular with a particular focus on trust and foundation and how high network wealthy individuals. And I have with me today Anup Tiwari, who is based in New Delhi in India, is currently the international representative for Asia of SOS Children's Villages International. And basically he focuses on developing high potential markets within Asia. And we are talking about Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, and the Philippines. So it really has like that overview over the region and work very closely with national executive directors to really kind of implement that kind of strategy. Anup has been raising funds from individuals, corporation, foundation and philanthropy for more than 2 decades. In the past, he has worked, among others, for UNICEF, ActionAid, and Charities Aid Foundation. Alex Perez is based in Mexico City, in Mexico. He's the founder of Latin Aid, which he started in 2018. And Latin Aid focuses on supporting non-profit organizations to strategically develop their individual giving. So we will refer probably to it as regular giving, right? Regular donors. He's been the national director of fundraising, marketing, and communication of multiple organizations, such as Greenpeace, Doctors Without Borders, Special Olympics, and SOS Children's Village International, as well as UNHCR. I'm going to give first the floor to Anup to tell us about Asia markets, and then we'll hear from Alex.
Thank you, Laura. Well, Asia is a very diverse market. We don't look similar. You know, if you visited Asia, none of the people in the countries that are in Asia look similar. So we have people who in China, Southeast Asia look similar. South Asia look totally different. Languages are different. None of the countries speak the same language. And religions are also very different. So we have, you know, one big Hindu country, which is India, with the majority Hindu population. It's a secular country. Then China, which has no religion. Then Buddhist countries in Thailand, Sri Lanka, Cambodia. And then in midst of all this is Philippines, which is a 95% Catholic population. So we don't look similar, we don't speak same language, we have different religions, our foods are different, the way we dress up is different, but we are united by something which has similarities there. And that also has an impact on how nonprofits are run in each country or how fundraising is done. When we look at fundraising markets in Asia, there are kind of 3 types of markets. We have this high potential international fundraising markets like Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong. And so this is one type. And then there is second type, which are big, but they raise money for themselves, like India, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, huge markets with lots of hundreds of thousands of donors and corporate donors and foundations raising money for themselves. And then there are countries where there's no fundraising, no local fundraising. They get money from international organizations or foundations abroad. So this is basically, in a nutshell, the largest continent in the world.
Shall we go to Alex?
Sure. Well, for me, it's an honor to be with you right now, with you, Heidi Laura, and you, Anu, because I guess this is a very rich information that we can share. So it's an honor also to share with all our audience to talk about Latin America and Asian market. So, okay, in terms of what happened in Asia, in kinds of, as Anu said, it's very similar here in Latin America, you know. We have main countries, of course, in the region that are now covered by international NGOs making fundraising, but also also other international NGOs are also working only in the programs, mainly in countries like Central America. So it's diverse, of course, but the main point here is the potential market in individual and regular giving. Of course, it's my specialty, but whatever. We are seeing this conversion to the basics on the regular giving is where the potential is. Why? Because of course we have some international very rich high wealth individuals and very big corporations also here, but it's difficult to reach them. It's not easy to take them. Of course, some international NGOs or local NGOs can achieve, but they are small. In terms of other points as a foundations on trust, there are a lot of money out there here in the region, but again, it's not for everybody, you know, it's not for local organizations. Some of them can achieve, but wherever. The potential is the market I see is in the regular giving, corporate, and then the foundations. For this is the perfect mix in this way that we can find here in Latin America. Very thing important is about differences between region in Latin America. We have Central America region. We have Mexico as a country who is the neighbor of the richest country in the world, USA, market, of course. And then we have the South America, where we can find there Brazil. Brazil is a monster indeed. So we can talk about it in this session, a lot of things and similarities and this synergy that Anu mentioned.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, you mentioned there's a lot of, indeed, there seems to be a lot of similarities between the way this region operates. Is there any chance that an organization operating only in Asia would get any money from anybody in Latin America, whether it's individual givers, whether it's a corporate, whether it's a wealthy individual, whether it's a trust and foundation?
So as I mentioned, there are countries in Asia that get money from international donors. And there are countries in Asia who are international donors. So for example, Japan and South Korea and Hong Kong, they're international donors. They're developed countries. Many things in their own country are sorted. Their government systems work very well in public welfare. So they're more sorted than other countries. So the donors similarly are very evolved. They are global donors. They know things are sorted here, but they're not sorted in Latin America, or they're not sorted in the rest of the Asia or in Africa, or in some parts of Europe also. So they're the ones who would give for Latin America, they would give for Africa, or rest of the Asia. they're international donors. At the same time, there are countries like Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, or even India, where international donors give money, because the public welfare system is not very good. So the reach of these services is not very good. So there are lots of gaps, and international donations help in achieving that. So Alex, I will be very happy to lap up any money you send from Latin America. At the same time, if there are deals that can be cracked in Japan, South Korea, or Hong Kong for Latin American markets, that's also a possibility. Let's get talking.
Of course, the point here is, yeah, of course, very rich and wealthy people here are not thinking to give money to some program in Japan. It's weird. So the Latin American rich persons are trying to give money to the programs here in the region, of course. So this is a part of the global situation that we live now, in terms of when I was from Medicine Sans Frontières, Doctor Without Borders, my first task was to raise money from programs in Africa. So, that was a challenge. So asking your question, Heidi Lore, is, well, where the money come from? Okay, it's very difficult to give money from this program in Africa, but wherever, when you can put that point in the mind of the people, whatever, corporate or high wealthy donor or individual giving donor, is when it's a transversal and global issue that we can raise, of course. That's the main point that I see. We can look this example in Greenpeace for indeed. Greenpeace can raise money from wherever because they are working for global change, global climate change. So this is a concern for wherever you are. It's your concern. So that's why. But any other programs like poverty in some country is different. If I want to ask money from a person in Laos or I don't know in Cambodia to, hey, you can give Guatemala money to Guatemala persons, is not a good thing, I guess.
Yes, I agree. When I said international donors in Asia are Japan, South Korea, and Hong Kong. Rest all are like the countries you talk about, only giving for their own country, forget about the region. So
and yes, in Latin America, the point is international giving, fundraising were from US foundations, from US corporations, mainly from foundations, of course, and trustees. They have programs here in Latin America, but they have the focus on increase or battle the poverty here. I guess it's the same in Asia. These big foundations or global foundations that are working across the globe, in this case, is international funds from US mainly. Mainly from government also. And I mean, Canada give money from all these refugee programs, all these migrant programs, and USA as well.
I mean, there's two things that comes to mind immediately. One of them is like from my own experience, is that if you want to get money, if you want to get a foot in the door of any of those donors, you still need usually to have one of your program within the region. So in Asia, you will need to have a program in Asia, in any of the Asian country, let's say, to really kind of attract attention and even get to know the funders. And I think and that would be my second point, is like, there's a difference between the way those donors operate. I feel that, and please, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that in Asia, it's really even more about who you know than it is in Latin America. In Latin America, I feel, especially in terms of trust and foundation, for instance, there's a lot of kind of website about, okay, there's this kind of, there's this foundation and this is what we do and this is how you can apply for our funding and stuff. In Asia, I feel, and maybe with an exception of India, in fact, but I feel that it's much more, they don't really market themselves in this way. So you need to be able to start this conversation, you really need to already be present in the country, even talking to the Japanese government, for instance, which has a lot of money to give out.
You're right. The foundation and corporates are not that vocal in Asia about their giving. However, that's fast changing. So CSR is the buzzword, and philanthropists also, inspired by the global giving challenge, they want to do it in an organized way. So, for example, in Indonesia, there was this billionaire who gave $100 million to the when Bill Gates visited, to their challenge fund. He gave $100 million. And then when later, he was a donor for me, and when I used to meet him, he would joke, oh, I thought I forgot, I mistook the number of zeros. I thought I was giving 100 million local currency, but I ended up giving $100 million. But that was a joke. He knew how much he was giving because he followed up that donation. With this awareness, the things are changing. Now, when you talk about corporate fundraising, one market where corporate social responsibility giving is, or corporate philanthropy is mandated is India. So in India, you have to give a certain percentage of your profit compulsorily. If you don't, then you may get penalized. So it's a law, CSR law it is called. I would say learning from the global environment, there's a change that is happening. It's no more that much that you hide what you are giving, or somebody you give by left hand and the right hand does not know. So because of the international influence, one, and second, in some countries, legal aspects also, where CSR is mandatory. So things are changing.
I'm agree with you. Well, to try to get big donors here in Mexico, as I said, these come from U.S. foundations or U.S. corporations or richest people there. We know we have a very rich man here in Latin America, very wealthy persons here in Latin America. Brazil is amazing. They have also very richest people. Central America, you can imagine that. Yes, they are there, but it's not easy to be with them or make a phone call, because of course everybody wants to ask them for money. In these terms, that's why they close the door and they don't want to know nobody about that. Only when they touch by somebody who is in the network, maybe they can willing to donate in terms. In other hand, we have the corporations, as you say, Anu. The corporations here, as we know, are a lot of transnational companies that are coming from US. Of course, in Latin America, we can see a lot of corporations. Amazon, Netflix is covering Latin America region, but they don't have a social corporate responsibility yet very well done. They are very doing in US market, Canada market, but not here in Latin America. Why? That's what happened now. So that's the point, that the difference. You see some international US programs with corporate cost-related marketing with, I don't know, with Amazon or Spotify or whatever, but you cannot see here in the region. So that's why we want to try to cover that, and it's not easy in this way. So when you say, oh, okay, I wanted to go with Ford Motor Company, okay, it's US company. They have programs in all the country, in all countries in Latin America. You can see Ford Motor Cars in all the countries here, but Ford Motor Company uh, pick very well, choose very well where going to put the money. I see another example with corporations talking about car is Toyota. Toyota is a global company also, and they are, yes, they are giving money in some programs for, it's very interesting, for the nature. It's great. No, it's good. It's not for all causes. As we know, some corporations are having their own selection programs to give money. And in other hand, I see the power again in this massive market, in the individuals that they are willing to donate in terms this $10. So this is the power here in the region, whatever country you can see. In Guatemala, they are starting to raise money from individuals. Costa Rica, they are small countries, but the people are giving money. So let's see how it's going on with other countries. Like Colombia is increasing this. That's why some international nonprofit organizations are invest money to raise money, of course. So that's the chances that we can see here.
Like if we look at foundations or corporations in Latin America or in Asia, the distances are large. But one way of fundraising which knows no boundaries is digital fundraising.
Of course.
And that is one area. Yeah, that is one area where probably we can compare notes, what is working for you in Latin America and what is working for us in Asia. Is it working or not to get regular donors or individual donors? Or, like face-to-face is working, which strategy is working for you? So, Laura, would that be a good question for me to ask Alex, and then I can also speak about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Yeah, as you know, in the regular giving markets, we can find the first. That was in the last year. The first top channel was face-to-face fundraising. Face-to-face was growing in all the region, in small countries and big countries, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, a lot of larger teams from organizations like Greenpeace, UNHCR, SOS. SOS has a largest face-to-face teams. Now with this pandemic issue, of course, everybody was stuck in face-to-face. They say no more telemarketing, but now they are coming back to telemarketing and digital. The budgets have to reallocate in digital. Of course, it's working. But it's in this digitalization that we can say is going slow. I don't see yet this. Small non-profit organizations making digital because they don't know how to do it. They don't know. That's why my agency, Latin Aid, is trying to work with them, teach them how this is possible. Of course, we can see increasing constantly. E-commerce is growing e-commerce. That's the first trend that we can see. If the people are using credit card online in any country in the region, is willing to make a donation with your credit or bank card digitally. It's the same. It's e-commerce at last. So I see this opportunity in terms of this abandoned telemarketing that I say, because everybody wants to do face-to-face in the past, of course. Now they say, okay, we can track digital and telemarketing is a natural way to do that. So I like it a lot, that mix of channels. It's interesting because the last year Latin Aid decided to move their programs in face support and services in face-to-face, and we say no more face-to-face. This is complex in terms of human resources, etc. And we say we have to go to digital. That was the last October, and we are not wrong. Digital is the way, is the trend, and it's working in the region. Brazil is amazing. Colombia is working. The main point and the issue here in these markets is these payment gateways, the banking integrations with the systems. That's the main problem, because it's a part of the lack of digitalization in all the region, not only in non-profit sector, it's in the commercial sector. But whatever, again, we can see Amazon is growing, Netflix is growing, all this is growing in terms of regular giving and massive e-commerce. I don't know if I respond your question in these terms, Anup, and how is going
Yes,
to happen in Asia.
that's a fair picture. That's a fair picture.
Yeah.
If I were to speak about Asia,
Mm.
uh, just to give a comparative what is happening in Asia in terms of digital, unless Laura, did you have another question or I tackle this one now?
No, I thought that would be very interesting actually, because Asia, I mean, and it's, as you said at the beginning, it's difficult to really generalize because there's Southeast Asia and there's South Asia, which are very different. And in terms of digital, I imagine they are indeed extremely different. And, we always kind of have this image of Japanese or South Korean going onto their mobile or their phone or whatever. So we imagine them to be, ultra digitalized. Whereas maybe that wouldn't be the case in, obviously, in India, in terms of like in more rural India, I'm talking about, not obviously in the kind of in the IT kind of bubble in New Delhi. So yeah, it would be very interesting to have that perspective. And I presume, and the thing I wanted to add is like to what Alex is saying, is that COVID, that pandemic is, and that lockdown, more generally speaking, it's forcing actually all those countries in Latin America to finally digitalize from a kind of a greater perspective in terms of banking, in terms of all those kind of back end, whatever software, whatever the terms is that you need to have to be able to then make it happen. Yeah.
So in Asia, we have a similar situation. Before pandemic, we would say, oh, face-to-face fundraising is our bread and butter, and digital is cheese and jam. Okay, you can live without digital fundraising. Where face-to-face was the prime channel in each country. We would get 10 to 15,000 donors, new donors, acquire new regular donors every year through face-to-face fundraising. And I'm talking about my organization, but having worked with others and having a network of peers, everybody was doing that. And we all were very happy. And then pandemic came in and none of our teams could go out, and they couldn't go out first for 1 week, then 2 weeks, and then months, and they still can't go out. And they start and then they have to stop. And that was the time we said, oh, this is time to really look at digital seriously. We were flirting with digital earlier, and now, we have put increased resources, investments into digital fundraising. For us in Asia, two things work very well. One is digital lead generation, largely through social media, and which is Facebook. And then the other thing that works well is email marketing. Facebook is a common platform still for most countries in Southeast Asia and even South Asia, but for China, where there's no Facebook, right? But they have their own kind of Facebook equivalent. So those are two ways in digital fundraising which do well for us. Email marketing, lead generation, then followed by a phone call, telemarketing. So that's how we are also doing digital fundraising, quite similar to what Alex also mentioned. Yes, we're still waiting for face-to-face to resume because large numbers and of regular donors, still there is no match for face-to-face fundraising.
Oh, well, about the face-to-face, I start my fundraising career with face-to-face, of course. I made some very largest teams with Greenpeace in Mexico, all over the country. And of course, now having this big opportunity in digital, I see this big difference because face-to-face is amazing, of course. They give you results because it's natural, it's human, be in touch face-to-face on the street or whatever. It's part of that, it's an incredible channel. But now we can see as a digital, this exponential. It's exponential because it's also easy to optimize your budget. Is exponential because you have a lot, tons. You say before, after, sorry, about this global. No, it's global, so it's no boundaries in terms of. I was thinking about, okay, some issues, some global issues as AIDS. No, AIDS is HIV, is a very bad disease or whatever. So this is a problem, an issue in all the countries. So if you put in the middle this fundraising program to as RED, you know, RED also, RED is trying to do with corporate marketing, social responsibility, and individual giving. It's a point for all the world. But whatever, I see these channels as a email. I remember email marketing is doing well, of course. So in countries like Brazil, they prefer to receive every digitally. No, in terms of mailing, normal mailing is very well working in US market, but not in Latin America markets. We don't like to receive paper. You don't read nothing because the cultural behavior is not to read. The region not read. So that's why the visual and video trending online works very well, because the people don't read, only want to see. YouTube is increasing figures. Netflix again is rising because we don't like read. Yes, I like to read, but other citizens and don't like to read.
Thank you, Alex, because this is actually this is exactly where I wanted to go to like really talking in depth about the difference, the cultural differences, and then and we can't get away with really talking about the cultural differences even within the country. I mean, in Latin America, for instance, Brazil is very much apart. It has it's a separate language. Is huge, so Brazilians tend to look at Brazilian issues and Brazilian music, Brazilian everything, basically. I've been to the country many times, and like in compared to Latin America, which are kind of more like a more global approach, actually, even between countries. And then in Asia, as we were talking already, like Southeast Asia is very different from South Asia, etc. But just before we get into this, I was going to add to the face-to-face. It's almost like, I mean, eventually it's also a market that just goes down, right? You get like a peak, and then if you can maintain it, it's great. And then eventually it's just like, okay, everybody's fed up to be asked in the streets. I mean, that's what happened in Europe. And then you have to move digital anyway. But what I found with face-to-face, which is interesting in emerging market maybe, is that personal relationship that you establish. So you also raise awareness about the issues. It's not just that you're fundraising and asking for money, but also you are saying to the people that don't necessarily read the news as much, or just for whatever reason are not necessarily interested in what's going on elsewhere. They're like, okay, look, this is what's going on in this country. And it's suddenly like, oh, really? And I can make a difference. Brilliant. I will join. So I found like almost like face-to-face being a precursor to like digital, and complement quite nicely that, and then digital can then go further.
Digital is a challenge indeed, of course, but this is an opportunity also, no? In terms of, I am thinking about this pandemic give us to the non-profit organizations this opportunity to do in digital way. How you can reach and touch hearts and minds through digital, no? In the digital way. That's the big challenge, of course, because everybody wants to put the right finger, the up finger in Facebook. That not make the difference. The difference is when you put some money to the programs and the organizations can do their work. So that's a big challenge in my point of view. Of course, in face-to-face, you can ask to the people and the person on the street, and yes, this is the problem, this is an issue, blah blah blah, and also can be a problem not regional or locally, is globally problem as a climate change. But wherever, I see this big opportunity in the pandemic to be more digital and be more human also. Is this to my mind is how can I do that in terms of raising funds?
Face-to-face fundraising is not just about raising funds. Actually, I had a boss several years back who would say fundraising is advocacy at profit. So you're doing advocacy and you're also raising money. And that's what every element of fundraising does, including face-to-face. The challenge we face in Asia is we usually get the first donation is not a regular gift. It's a single gift, right? And then you have to use telemarketing to convert those donors into regular givers. And that was the advantage which we saw in face-to-face, where you recruited a donor right onto regular giving. But during pandemic, there was no option, so we went for cash gifts or single gifts, and then now the conversion has started. And I also see lots of opportunity in digital fundraising per se. Pandemic forced us to kind of look at it seriously and urgently. But going on, I think digital is here to stay. Many years back, I was in this fundraising conference and they introduced and called it new media fundraising. And for several years, we still called it new media fundraising till we realized it's no longer new. And then it got a new name called digital fundraising. And digital, what change we are seeing in digital fundraising is more about integration. So digital has got integrated with telemarketing. So only digital may not be that efficient, but when combined with telemarketing, it's works very well. In India and in other parts of South Asia, we use something called telefacing, which is a telephone and followed by a visit. And now some organizations are also practicing where lead is generated digitally, telephone phone call kind of warms that up, and then a person goes and fulfills the lead. So it's digital telefacing. So it's about integration. And similarly now, direct response television. And even direct response television is followed by digital development and then a phone call, or when you do DRTV, at the same time you're doing digital and telemarketing. So there's a whole lot of integration that is happening in the digital space. So I would say, that's something that would keep on happening. There would be integration that would help increasing efficiencies in how we recruit and probably also retain the donors.
I know you say some very interesting point about the telefacing fundraising, because I heard about some years ago, and that was working very well in Asia. But it's strange that we are not using that benchmark in Latin America. So I guess this is a very, very good point to have some other time to talk about. Of course, our audience also can think on how we can do it in Latin America or exchange this skill sharing. Skill sharing, because we all do by only telemarketing and door-to-door, face-to-face. But if you combine that technique, it's good, right? So yes, we have a lot of lessons to learn from Asia also. So let's see, it's very interesting.
This nicely kind of introduced this new kind of this new well, not topic, but like this new kind of discussion that I wanted to have about, and then beyond, you know, in individual giving, like looking at, you know, all stream of fundraising, in terms of how do you approach donors in Asia, how do you approach donors in Latin America? Because if we take like, you know, and I'm playing devil advocate a bit, but, you know, if you take one extreme in Latin America, which is very kind of warm, very very
Yes.
personal kind of relationship, right? And then the other extreme, which is Southeast Asia, which, you know, like might feel really formal, very much like extremely respectful, and it might be a huge clash, right? And then you've got maybe India in between, right? Which are like maybe a mix of the two. I don't know. This is a question mark, Anoop. So it would be very interesting to understand that, because when you get that, then you get the money, right?
Right. Yeah, very right, Alex. If I very interesting anecdote to share. I was in Japan, and I was there for this corporate pitch. And when I sit on the table, we are 4 people, but there are only 3 glasses of tea, 3 cups of tea. And this tea is between the host and me. And so all the while, you know, I do not touch that. I thought probably it's his. And then at the end, after we've done with the pitch, everything, and I said, I'm very thirsty. Do you mind if I take a sip? Oh, they said, oh, this is for you. I said, but how about you? He said, in Japan, we have our tea earlier. The host does not drink with the guest to honor themselves. So culturally, it's very different. And those cues, I think one gets to learn about them as you go along. Similarly, as you mentioned, it's very respectful in how you address in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, in Indonesia. You know, you have to address everybody very respectfully. And India, of course, is a melting pot between the Western and the Eastern culture. So, you know, like it's kind of changing. But I feel relationships still all across Asia matter a lot. It's little professional, but more about how you build the relationships. But I think if you go down in any market, I think this will apply everywhere. But it's more pronounced in Asian markets that relationships matter a lot when you come to any kind of fundraising, not only corporate.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I want to go back a little bit about this. Heidi Law asked us of cultural. Yes, for instance, for example, Brazil is very different in terms of cultural, and also in terms of Brazil as a country, they have a lot of mixture of cultural diversity. And then we can see all our countries in Mexico as well. So the respect, all that things are all, of course, part of it, but we are more, you know, more relaxed, and we are very, as we speak Spanish, we are using different words. You know, we are very different in Spanish as Argentina, and the meaning of Colombia, no, is different, the meaning. And when we see this with Spain as example, no? Spain, they are some international non-profit organizations like Ayuda en Acción, etc. They are now in Latin America, in some countries, they come from Spain. So it's different. They have to understand the culture for each country in terms of this respect, the traditions, because all Latin America has a lot of traditions. The last week we have these All Saints and Death rituals in Latin America. So some countries like Mexico is very, very focused on that in 2 days, 1 day for kids, dead kids, and then for the adult kids, and then the next day. So it's these traditions, a lot of traditions that you have to be very clever to how to ask the money for, because not to touch these traditions or cultural behavior, etc. So yes, we have this challenge again.
Yeah, that was part of my question actually. Like, how do you ask for the money? How do you make the ask? How do you make the ask in Latin America, and how do you make the ask in Asia? Is that after at the first meeting? Is that you have to drink loads of tea? You know, how does it work? Like, or is it implied? Do you wait for them to actually ask you if you want, you know, how much you want? You know, how does it work?
For Mexico example is we have to be very persuasive, because sometimes we try to use the cause. Hey, look, these poor children. That's it. No asking. So in my mind as a fundraiser, I say, no, look this poor kid and give money. So I am different. But yes, the communications has to be in terms of awareness, advocacy, etc., to put that the concern in the mind of the people. Then you have to be persuasive in order to put them in the situation. Hey, what happened if you be poor? Look, you have the opportunity to go to give somebody. In this persuasive pitch, there we can ask the money. In terms of regular giving, in terms of corporation, is very different history. Corporations are very slow. They have to decide. They have to review the budget, etc. In terms of high net worth individuals, of course, it's a network. It's a network of somebody can touch with them, explain the problem, and as you know, Adilor, is very slow stages as soon as you can have an ask money for a rich person or high wealth people, no? So it's persuasion in all the countries, I think.
Yes, it's kind of, there are similarities. In individual fundraising, the ask is made between 6 to 18 minutes, and money should come between 6 to 18 minutes. And in corporate, 6 months to 18 months. You know, that's the time it takes for money to come in. You know, there are these pre-meetings, proposals, question answers, project visits before money comes in. So 6 to 18 months is my experience. And in face-to-face fundraising, if it doesn't happen between 6 to 18 minutes, then you know you have to say bye, because you have to move on to other conversation. That's been my experience. I remember 20 years back when I went to a company, they were amused why an NGO fundraisers are coming in to ask money. You know, they were amused. They were not rude. They were extremely polite, but they didn't know who I should meet. You know, but things have changed. As I said, in India, for example, there is a CSR law, so they are also under pressure, or they have targets to give. So the conversation about money figures out very quickly. However, this thumb rule of 6 to 18 months applies for most countries in Asia. You know, of course, there are coffees and teas. You have lots of them, project visits, you know, like they ask their uncle, aunt, cousin, neighbor, everyone before giving money.
It's interesting how this kind of like ask is I mean, a lot of things that you said is very true for Europe as well, you know, like it's such a taboo subject, right? We don't want to make the ask, you know, it's like as if it was dirty to ask for money, like to actually do good. It's very interesting. Yeah, so that's I guess that would be a human trait, you know, across the board. One question was about topics. Is there like topics that are easier to fundraise within region? I mean, you mentioned Greenpeace and global climate change. You know, UNICEF was mentioned, I believe, so that would be children. Is that specific subject that I mean, I know from my experience in Brazil that obviously the Amazon would be one, quite interesting subject. But yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, the thing, the theme with topics is because, as we know, the region has a lot of topics. Oof, we have poverty, we have hunger, we have climate change as a global issue, etc. Contamination. So it's a lot of topics. So, but what is the easy topic to do that? Of course, is now is rising woman, of course, is it's a part of, because we are seeing this raising of the issues on women. The other is children, of course. The children, all non-profit organizations that work with children is, look, these poor children with cancer, these little children without no something to eat. So that's the main topics that are coming. One of the most issues that we have here in the region is we don't have studies. We don't have some metrics to understand how this is happening, the trends. We see that and we know that because our colleagues and counterparts are working in some specific topic. But for example, human rights also are rising awareness, and of course they are asking for money, as Amnesty International. UNICEF, of course, is working all the time with children. Again, for example, Doctor Without Borders is working with terms of health issues and diseases. They are doing well. So I cannot tell you in a specific which is the best topic. Of course, all the causes are important, and all the topics are very important for the people, for the persons, or for the citizens. So, but these topics are the more common. The common is children, again, cancer for children, women breast cancer. That's the main topics that you see out there. You see campaigns on that. But we have a lot of other. It's interesting, for example, the animal welfare or dogs, street dogs, very bad dogs that are violent with dogs. The people say, "Oh, I want to help the dogs." Nobody gives money. Why? No, so that's another challenge, of course. But yes, a lot of topics here in Latin America, I guess in Asia, are very similar. We have a lot of issues here that we have to cover. And now with the pandemic, we have more.
Well, we're not very different. I think the biggest is faith-based giving. So giving to religious organizations for social welfare. So I'm talking about, just to stay in our sector, I think that's the biggest. I think that's where a large chunk of the money goes in Asia. Then the next easiest is emergencies. So if there's a calamity anywhere, there's a flood, natural calamity, or earthquake, it's easier to raise money. And then in my experience are children and health emergencies. They are at a similar level. So children, because they're the future, so education, healthcare of children and mothers, this is easier to sell. Healthcare emergencies like a child needs operation, or a lady needs operation, or man needs operation, surgery, those are easier to sell. Or raise money for. Animal rights is not very big in Asia. As he said, Alex said, like it's not easy to raise money for them. Environment is picking up, but I would still say that it's nowhere compared to children or health or education. And then elderly is also one area where there is a good traction because most of the active donor age in Asia is between 35 to 60. After 60, since social security is not that great, people may stop donating. So this age group of like 35 to 55, 60 is struggling with the cause of elderly parents, or they are going to be elderly soon. So elderly also gets a good traction. So this is largely how the pecking order is in Asia.
I would imagine livelihoods is also kind of there as one of the topics, right? I mean, I worked on programs incidentally in Sri Lanka on livelihoods, but I know there's a lot of that in India, obviously to fight poverty, and maybe elsewhere in Southeast Asia that I know less of.
Mm-hmm. So institutional giving is focused a lot to that. However, it's more towards, like smaller packets like education, healthcare, or in terms of, but I do not see many micro lending programs, but yeah, institutions focus a lot on that. And probably that's what you are kind of talking about. But when it comes to individuals and corporations, they still on the charity mode of, okay, provide education, healthcare, supplies and all. It's still most bulk of the money is still there. But yes, things are changing. And probably, like in coming times, we will also have our own models of with the, crowdfunding platforms coming in. That is something new, relatively new. Wide range of topics are there. And good analysis to see what works in your market is to see which campaigns have got the maximum money, which type of campaign. So actually that would answer your question. But this was more from my experience. So any market, look at the crowdfunding platform. Okay, which causes are getting the maximum money? Those are the ones which are hot with the donors in that country.
Thank you. Excellent tip. Last remarks, because really we're running out of time now.
No, last remarks are from my side is yes, Latin America has a potential and big market. Having Mexico in top, Brazil on top, Argentina, Colombia, Peru, we have opportunities here. Of course, we need some foundations in terms of money to invest to do more fundraising, of course, to tackle these programs that we have as the topics, as we say. So I would just want to thank you all, Heidi Lore. Thank you, Anu, for this very interesting exchange. And I hope all the audience be interested in learn more and, of course, exchange more information with us. I am open, of course, willing to do that.
Thanks, Alex. It's been wonderful jamming with you. And as you said, we need angel investors here who can fund fundraising, invest in fundraising. So the potential is much, much higher. And there are so many investors, these funds which are funding lots of startups in the commercial space. But if they can also invest in fundraising, sky's the limit, right? And thank you, Heidi. You are a dangerous host because you make us reveal lots of secret. But it's a pleasure speaking to you and to Alex. And I hope this conversation, I learned a lot from Alex. I'm sure our audience would also have found something to take back home.
Absolutely. It's been a real pleasure to be with you. With you both. Thank you so much for this detail. Yes, we digged in. Detail kind of fundraising tip for your region, which in the end seems quite similar, which is kind of interesting and not necessarily something that was obvious from the beginning. So Yeah, and yeah, we'll carry on the conversation, that's for sure. Bye bye from us for now. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.